This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
This is a Fatal 4 podcast.
Shuffle those feet from side to side. It's time for Squared Circle Strafe, the premier video game podcast of the Fatal 4 Podcasting Network. I am your host, Pro Wrestling Noah, aka Noah Stewart, and it's time to talk about video games. Hello, everyone. Welcome into the show. This is the first episode of the new year, which is troubling given that it is kind of in the second half of the month. Sorry, folks, I am sorry. I have been gone. I've been on a little bit of a hiatus here for the past couple months. Let's just say, the meme of like, I accidentally became important at work and it's ruining my life. So something like that happened to me. Basically, the day that I carved out of my schedule to record these episodes kind of got filled up with work stuff every week now, so I'm struggling to kind of find a new day to do this show. I am currently recording this episode at around 10 o'clock at night, but there's some stuff that happened recently in the world of video games that I just had to talk to y'all about, so I just really felt like I needed to get this going. Also, Paul, if you're listening, I'm putting out an episode. Stop texting me. No, it's fine. I know. We need content. We need content for the streaming airwaves, the internet, RSS feeds. Are those still a thing? Anyways, hey folks, been a while. I hope you're having a good new year. Even with all the stuff that's been happening in the world since the last time I put out an episode, I guess. You know what I'm talking about. Just recently, as of the day I'm recording this episode, TikTok was banned and then unbanned. We'll talk about something adjacent to that a little bit later. But hey, I know what you guys want to hear about. The movies I've been watching, which I always start these shows off with. I've seen 3 movies this year. I've seen The Damned, Wolfman, and One of Them Days. I saw all those in theaters, and I'm just having a great time so far. I'm going to go see The Brutalist tomorrow. That's going to be fun. That's a 3.5 hour long movie, and it has a built-in intermission, which, hey, I think more movies of that length should do that. I saw Killers of the Flower Moon in theaters, and it did not have an intermission. And boy, did I have to go pee like 2/3 of the way through that movie, and I felt bad about it. I don't think I missed anything too critical. I still understood that movie, but I need to know what happened in that 2 minutes that I was gone to the bathroom. Anyways, folks, let's talk about what we're really here to talk about. You know it. You saw it. The big reveal trailer. Nintendo has revealed, finally, the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, I don't know. I'm honestly kind of surprised that they went with the naming convention of Nintendo Switch 2. Never in Nintendo's history have they had a numbered successor to a console. Obviously ignoring the Nintendo 64, which I don't think really is in the spirit of what I mean by that. But the Switch 2, it's definitely them learning a lesson from the Wii U, because when that system came out, it definitely had a bit of a marketing crisis of like parents not knowing that it was a entirely new console. A lot of people thought that it was just like an add-on to the system that they already had with the Wii. Like, oh, is it just like a game, a little like pad screen that you buy for the Wii? No, it's a whole new console. I think, and that was honestly a little on them. Besides just the naming convention of the Wii U, I remember when they were showing reveal trailers for it and everything, all of the attention was on the gamepad, and you didn't really see much of the system itself ever in the advertising, which I feel like is important when you're selling a console. You should probably show the console, but who am I? Just a lowly podcaster. I'm not a marketing person. But yeah, no, I feel like a lot of the suggestion was maybe to go with something like the Super Switch, but really I don't know. It feels weird because I feel like Nintendo would be a little more creative in naming, like a new console, or even with like some of the stuff going on with it. But they just really doubled down on, hey, this is the same console, but it's the next one, and it's more it's more powerful than the last one. It's better than the last one, we promise. But let's talk about some of the specs of this thing. So it's a little bigger. And again, like, just this reveal trailer they put out, they did not give any specific specs, really. They just kind of showed what it looked like in comparison to the old Switch, but it's a little bigger. The screen is like, I would assume that the size of the Switch 2 would be something comparable to a Switch, a Steam Deck, let's say. Around that ballpark. The Joy-Cons are a little bigger, obviously. The big thing that they're touting is, instead of the previous Switch where you slid the Joy-Cons in and you heard that kind of snap as they locked into place there, this time the Joy-Cons are magnetic, and you just simply like slap them onto the console. And I'm sure it still has this satisfying click as the the plug in the side of the console plugs into the Joy-Cons. But I bet that magnetic snap feels real good. I bet that's really satisfying to just slap on there. Of course, the signature blue and red Switch colors kind of accompanying this new design. And it looks like the triggers are a little bit different. They have the L and R shoulder buttons, and they have ZL and ZR. Those are the names of those, right? Yeah, just silly Nintendo buttons. But it looks like the triggers are a little more analog this time, instead of like the clicky, just like barely like depressing into the console ones. It looks like they are a little more like triggers, like like an Xbox style trigger to them. So that's nice for potentially having some other types of games on here. Perhaps a first person shooter, like something like a Metroid Prime 4. Perhaps. Just spitballing, maybe. And then it has what I think they did not really point this out a lot in the trailer, although it was visible. So the Joy-Cons have an optical sensor on the side, basically like where the shoulder buttons would be on the Joy-Con if you were playing it as like a single controller instead of, like in the mold or on the system itself, on the side, like where it would plug into the console. There's an optical sensor, and the idea being that you put the optical sensor on a flat surface and it will act like a mouse. The practical use of this is questionable because I don't know if they're planning on, porting RTSs to this thing, or I doubt that you would want to use it as some kind of like, first person control, because doing first person control and then having like half a controller in the other hand for doing face buttons, that I'm sure that just feels weird. Honestly, who could say, maybe this is just a ploy to finally get Mario Paint onto Nintendo Switch Online in the Super Nintendo section. And hey, you need a mouse to play that game, so here you go. I have a feeling that the optical sensor might be about as essential to, people designing stuff for the Switch as HD Rumble was for the original Switch, in that it probably really won't be used except for, first party Nintendo games, probably, and then a fraction of that even, perhaps. And then one other thing that they did not really point out, but you could notice during that announcement trailer, is that there's a mysterious unlabeled button on the bottom of the right Joy-Con. So they have their, normal, like the home button and the screen capture button that the original Switch had. But now there is a mysterious square-shaped black button that's the same color as the rest of the console. And my question is, A, what is it, obviously? But B, will Nintendo, like, is it just unlabeled for now, and maybe in a later direct, or maybe around the time that they, launch it, they will reveal a symbol for that button, kind of, detailing what the heck it does. Maybe they're just kind of being, cutely secret about it for now. I don't know. I've seen some speculation, and this would be really cool. I've seen some speculation maybe alluding to the idea that Nintendo wants to get back to some sort of dual screen gameplay like the Wii U, or like the Wii U did, where you had, your screen in your hand and the screen on the TV, so that you could have, like inventory or a map or something on the screen in your hand and then playing like most of the game on the TV. Or what I would be so excited for is that they add a new DS section for Nintendo Switch Online so that they can finally emulate DS games. That would be so cool. I would use that function so much. And like you could easily, just instead of using a stylus, you could use a finger, because the touch interface of the Switch is so much more sensitive to finger surfaces than the the pressure sensitive screen that the original Nintendo DS had. So that would be cool. I don't know if that's what it is. That's just an idea, but that would be super neat. And yeah, Switch 2. It's got, I would say it's got a lot going on, but really, like, all I've talked about is like some, minor additions, perhaps. I've seen some analysts saying that they are thinking that the new Switch 2 will probably be comparable to a PlayStation 4 Pro in power, which, is not, keeping up with the Joneses necessarily with the power of the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, or, obviously what PCs have going on. But that's fine. That's never been Nintendo's MO. They will always, eschew graphical, powerhouse-ness to making the games that they make and people will be very excited for those games. But hopefully this means that they will be able to, with the games they're putting out, have them be a little bit more stable. Maybe they'll, have that in mind this time. Because if you remember, when Breath of the Wild came out at the launch of the Switch, what was that, like almost 8 years ago? Breath of the Wild was also like not the most, like it dipped in frame rate in some of the bigger areas of that game. So, the original Switch was never like super stable in the first place. So hopefully Switch 2 kind of helps with that. Maybe this means that some of the games that didn't run so well on the first Switch could maybe have a second chance at life, maybe some re-releases. Maybe the Pokemon Company could put out a re-release of Scarlet and Violet and call it Scarlet and Violet, but it works this time. We've ironed it out, and the Switch is powerful enough to make it do what we wanted it to do in the first place. Maybe. But yeah, Switch 2. We are getting a Direct with more information from Nintendo on April 2nd, which is interesting because when the first Switch came out, they had that reveal trailer in January of 2017, and then it launched in March. So it was like 2 months from announcement to release. And this time it's announced in January, and then we're waiting till April, about 4 months, until we get to see more details. And then they will probably announce a release during that Direct, which I'm assuming would be sometime in the summer, which is kind of unnatural, unorthodox time to release a console, but it's Nintendo. They can do what they want. It can be the hit of the summer. We'll see, but interesting times. It's just interesting times for Nintendo. I feel like they really do need to release sometime sooner than later this year. Because last year, I mean, the Switch did so much business. It did so much business, especially during the pandemic, the year that, they like could not sell enough Animal Crossing. Like they ran out of Animal Crossing. They had to make more Animal Crossing and then run out some more because people kept buying Animal Crossing, and also Switches. Like people were buying all the reserves of Switches they had so that they could play Animal Crossing on it. And so it's not like they're hurting or anything, but last year was a pretty quiet year for Nintendo. They had games come out like Mario Party Jamboree and Legend of Zelda Echoes of Time, but those games didn't really, they weren't like huge sellers, at least I don't think. And they aren't really games that like people were, super truly excited about and talking about. So, but that, Switch 2 will definitely have people talking. So, and whatever games that they, release for it. Oh, that was the other thing in the announced trailer. Mario, what it appears to be Mario Kart 9, which like Mario, you could have told me that they were just going to do hey, Mario Kart 8 Triple Deluxe this time, and it adds all the stuff from the Wii U version, and then all the stuff we added in the Deluxe version, and then all of the DLC maps that we released after the release of Deluxe. All in one game, here you go. You could have told me that they were going to do that, and I would have believed you and said, yep, that makes sense. But it looks like what they showed during that trailer is a new game. Like the character designs look slightly different, especially Donkey Kong, who kind of looks closer to classic arcade Donkey Kong instead of Donkey Kong Country, like Rare era Donkey Kong. And some, like a new map or, track, as it were, for cars. New Mario Kart, that'll probably sell well. that'll probably be, at the top of the NDA charts every week after it comes out for years to come. Speaking of games, Nintendo has, there's also rumors that Nintendo will be having a direct focusing on games for the original Switch coming next month in February. This has not been officially confirmed, but a Nintendo leaking source that tends to be fairly reputable, Nate the Hate, has claimed that the Switch 1 Nintendo Direct will be coming next month. And you might be thinking, what could they possibly have left for this console? But there's some stuff that they have, currently confirmed for the console. Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition in March, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and Pokemon Legends ZA is coming out in both those titles are confirmed for 2025, both coming to the original Switch. So there's some stuff to talk about. What I'm wondering is, if Metroid Prime 4 Beyond does come to the Switch 2 and has a Switch 2 version, if they're doing splitting versions for in between generations, what will the difference be? I feel like that's going to be pretty critical. And that's one other thing I forgot to mention about the Switch 2 is that it will be backwards compatible with the original Switch games, which is nice. But there was some weird wording in a little fine print on that page in the reveal trailer saying that it's backwards compatible, but not all original Switch games are going to be compatible with the Switch 2, and that they'd have a list basically later to come telling you what is and isn't playable on the Switch. So that's weird, but I guess we'll see what happens with that when it happens. But you can buy some of those games coming out later on what Nintendo has launched recently and is calling the Better eShop as an alternative to their online store, the eShop on the Switch. If you've been on your Switch recently and you went into the eShop, I'd say for the past couple years even, it's kind of a piece of crap. It is just so slow. It would take forever for it to load up into the home page, and it would take forever to populate that page with thumbnails of games to click into, and not even to mention the just avalanche of bloatware that thing got eventually, just all sorts of nondescript card games and a weird amount of anime hentai games that you would think for a Nintendo console, but that stuff's there, and you don't have to look that hard. You just click into recent releases, and there will always be a new at least 3 hentai games just waiting for you in the Nintendo Switch store, in the eShop. So Nintendo has launched what they are calling the Better eShop, which is a more stable version of it that will load faster and populate better. And it also has filtering options to kind of do away with a lot of the bloatware that has plagued the eShop recently. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that they have a little bit more better curation. I haven't actually booted it up yet. It's honestly been forever since I've touched my Switch. We used it a little bit to play some Mario Party Jamboree. We played some Overcooked 2 recently, as we are wont to do in this household. But hopefully it's better. I will maybe go check it out after this podcast. There's some stuff I've been curious about with my Switch lately that I wanted to go check out. But speaking of software and marketplaces of which you buy software and whatnot, and not the most elegant of segues. Let's talk about, so TikTok was banned in the US for maybe 12 hours this past weekend. TikTok is now back and able to be accessed on phones and, browsers and whatnot. But a weird casualty that happened around that stuff is that Marvel Snap also got banned in the TikTok banning, sequence of events, which is weird. And there's members of the Fatal 4 podcasting network that were very upset about this. One, Paul Griffin, said, "Why is this happening? Am I is it because I'm being radicalized by Miss Marvel emotes?" But yeah, so you may be wondering how and why did that happen? Well, Marvel Snap is owned by ByteDance, which is the company that owns TikTok, as well as other apps, including CapCut, Lemon 8, and Marvel Snap. And it's weird because the ban, the law that banned TikTok was just aimed at TikTok. It wasn't aimed at ByteDance. It was aimed at just the app TikTok. But however, in the back end that they, were refusing access to TikTok, somehow it knocked stuff with Marvel Snap offline, to which I believe as of this recording of this podcast, it is still inaccessible. It is still banned in the US. So I don't know what's going on with that. Second Dinner, the developer of Marvel Snap, has said that they are working on it, that the outage was a surprise for them too, and it was not planned. But they've said that they're planning on getting the game back up, however they intend to do that. Whether it's stuff that they have to adjust in their own back end, or having to go through their parent company or the U.S. government, who can say? But this is kind of a big deal because it's not just affecting TikTok or ByteDance or whatever. That Marvel is owned by Disney. This is messing with the mouse's money now. So this is kind of a problem in regards to that. So I'm sure, however this gets handled, it will result in Marvel Snap coming back. However, whichever way this goes, but I'm sure I obviously no idea when it'll come back, but hope I am fairly confident that it will come back eventually. So thoughts and prayers for our fellow Fatal 4 podcast network members. Hope we're doing okay. I'm sure you'll be able to play your card game again soon. But this year, it sure is starting off kind of funny, kind of funky, but hopefully the rest of the year will be more promising. And thankfully, the Pokemon Company has some good news in regards to that. They have declared 2025 to be the year of Eevee. That's right, folks. The year of Eevee. The Pokemon Company has, for the past couple years, I think ever since the release of Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, they have kind of been trying to market Eevee as the second mascot of Pokemon. Pikachu obviously being the main mascot of Pokemon, but they are trying to be hey, Eevee also. If you aren't as big a fan of Pikachu, also there's Eevee. Eevee's cute. I think most people tend to like the evolutions of Eevee more than Eevee itself. But hey, that's included, obviously, because they have a whole big plush line coming out. They have very cute, sizable, but squat plushes coming out for all of the evolutions. Your Espeon, your Umbreon, Jolteon, Flareon, Vaporeon, Leafeon, Glaceon, Sylveon. There we go. That's the one I was missing. Yeah. So and I'm sure they have some other events planned out as well. But hey, year of Eevee, everybody. It's gonna be a good one. Anyways, some more announcements. This time coming from PlayStation slash Sony, they announced a like whole kind of little bit of a catalog of upcoming entertainment adaptations of video games. Namely, there's going to be a Helldivers movie and a Horizon Zero Dawn movie coming out. Horizon Zero Dawn, for that being a movie, I feel like that has the potential to be something like a Last of Us style sensation, perhaps. Because the thing about The Last of Us is that it is just a straight up adaptation of the games. Like it's just the story of the games, but they added some stuff. And I feel like you could do that with Horizon Zero Dawn. Like just a straight up adaptation of that story could be valuable to people who have not played the video games. And they go, oh boy, this was pretty good. Maybe I can go play the video game and see what that's all about. Which we are seeing with The Last of Us. Fatal 4 Podcast Network co-host Cody Carlson, he straight up did that. He watched the show and went, damn, this is cool, and then went and got The Last of Us Part 1 on his PlayStation 5. So that's marketing right there, baby. Then there's also the Helldivers movie, which I find interesting because Helldivers is basically just Starship Troopers, which in itself is a satire of like fascist sci-fi settings. And Helldivers is kind of like a satire of a satire. So I wonder what you do with that, because like maybe you could have like a subversion of the satire, or maybe the characters of Helldivers, the Helldivers themselves kind of realizing, hey, wait a minute, are we the bad guys? Maybe that have that kind of story unfold. That'll be an interesting one to watch. I think the development of that one, seeing what that first trailer is going to look like, I feel like might be pretty telling. We'll see. And then the other thing that they announced is not a movie but a series. They have announced a anime adaptation of Ghost of Tsushima Legends, coming to Crunchyroll, being directed by Takanobu Mizuno, who directed the short The Duel for Star Wars Visions. And yeah, in collaboration with Aniplex, Sony Music serving as a music and soundtrack partner. And the series will debut in 2027, which I assume will be after Ghost of Yote comes out. So, it'll be a little more of a recent Ghost of Tsushima hype surrounding it. So, yeah, samurai anime, but a little different this time. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I think it's smart of them to do this. Kind of, not doing the obvious thing with Ghost of Tsushima, being a, Kurosawa, like black and white, old samurai movie kind of thing, and instead going for anime. I think that's neat. That's an inspired take on it instead of just going with the obvious thing. Which, speaking of not going with the obvious thing, the trailer for the Until Dawn movie has come out recently. That's supposed to be coming out in the next couple months. And that thing looks weird because it's not a straight up adaptation of Until Dawn. Like, they kind of have a little bit of what you recognize as Until Dawn in the movie, but then it like turns into something wildly different, like even in the trailer itself. So I don't know what's going on with that. I mean, it makes me more interested to see it, but I don't necessarily know how excited I am as a fan of Until Dawn to see it, if you know what I mean. So interesting choices that Sony is making with their video game adaptations. I saw that Gran Turismo movie in theaters and it was okay. It's like not a bad movie, But it's also not something that I'm like yelling at people like, oh, you got to go check out that Gran Turismo movie. It was fine. It was neat. But hey, why don't we take a quick break? And when we come back, I will tell you about some of the video games I've been playing in this long hiatus. I'll tell you about that when we come back. And we're back, folks. Let's get to it. I've been playing some video games. I don't want to say a lot of video games. I honestly wish I'd been playing more video games, but I have played a handful of games since I've been on this kind of break. I've been on so I beat 9 Souls, finally. I beat 9 Souls, which I don't know, finally. I did take a while on it, but it is a bit of a lengthy game, that, kind of Metroidvania situation, with very hard boss fights. But in a way that, so I am not much of a like Souls-like, Sekiro-like player of games, but for whatever reason, this one I just really locked into, started like really jibing with the combat and what it was asking of me. And once you like unlock all of the abilities, which it kind of drip feeds to you through the entire game, kind of in Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown fashion, you get the double jump like way late in the game, which is very satisfying to then finally have access to. But yeah, when you unlock all of the abilities in that game, the combat just really starts singing, especially when you unlock so there's a parry in the game, which you use a lot, obviously, because it's more like a Sekiro than it is a Dark Souls, where you are kind of rhythmically parrying the offense from the bosses, especially. But there's a parry, and then there's also a charged parry, which you have to like kind of preload before getting hit with the red attacks from the enemies, which are, in most games would be like, those are the unblockable attacks, which is true in this, but you can actually parry those unblockable attacks with this kind of preloaded charged parry that you do, and it like has just like a big glass shattering sound effect that happens when you hit it, and it's so satisfying, and which that usually opens up enemies to like a stunned state that you can get some damage in afterwards, and it's very good. It's very good. I think there were maybe 2 bosses towards the end that I really had to kind of like, spend an entire play session kind of running my head against the wall and then putting it aside for a little bit and coming back and really, dialing it all in and being able to beat it. And I was really anticipating the final boss of this game to really kick my ass, because I heard so much about how like the difficulty curve just spiked when you hit the final boss. And I'm also thinking that maybe I did not get the true difficulty of it, because I think I may have made some decisions throughout the game that did not yield me the true ending, like kind of like the good ending of the game, which I think I might have to like do a complete playthrough again, which I don't know if I'm necessarily willing to do that. But I think there was like maybe an extra phase of the final boss that I did not see. So, but I still saw credits. And it's not like those first 2 phases of that boss are a pushover. It took me a little bit to even get past the first phase to like really start to learn the patterns and like what the tells for some of those attacks. Because honestly, like you can kind of tell a pattern with most of the other bosses, but the last boss just like throws stuff kind of out at random, and it's mostly just reacting, like knowing, okay, like that, like, these colors and this posture that she's doing, like I know that this attack is coming, so I have to react. And it's hard, but it was so much fun to like really dial it in and get past that. And hey, I beat 9 Souls, which more I feel like not enough people are talking about 9 Souls. More people should play 9 Souls. If you haven't played 9 Souls, go find 9 Souls. It's on everything now. I think If it's not already out on PS5, I think it's coming to PS5. But it's on Steam. It's on Switch. Go play Nine Souls. One of my favorite games of last year. Then I also got a chance to play Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which first party Microsoft, Bethesda, Machine Games, which I love Machine Games, previously making other games where you kill Nazis real good in the Wolfenstein games. And yeah, I didn't really know what to expect with Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, because, when you think Indiana Jones, especially when it comes to video games, you also think of Tomb Raider and Uncharted, and you kind of think like, well, those are basically Indiana Jones games, and I've played those. So like, what can, a new Indiana Jones game really do that those games haven't already done or are providing, that kind of experience? And Machine Games was really smart because they decided to just kind of like make like the style of games that they already make, which is like very like narrative focused, first person games with like a little bit of an immersive sim edge to it. Because those Wolfenstein games, while, there are numerous sections where you go guns blazing and have these, big shootouts, there are a lot of moments in the modern Wolfenstein games where you are doing a lot of stealth and, like sneaking up behind like enemies and trying to get through sections without, tipping everyone off to your presence, which a lot of this Indiana Jones game is. I've heard a lot of people kind of describe it as Dishonored without the powers. It's kind of a like immersive sim light. It's not so much, like kind of speccing your character to be the kind of play style that you want, but you can kind of approach situations in various ways. There's kind of like, different ways that you can, get to a goal that you're trying to get to, or, like the stealth options. You have a lot of options for stealth, a lot of different kinds of weapons you can pick up, whether it be a hammer or a baton, or my favorite thing is picking up a guitar and smashing it on a dude's head and knocking them out. That's really fun. And also you have your whip at your disposal that you can use to disarm dudes or trip them up. The fist combat is really satisfying. You have kind of a block and parry that you can do where you like catch a guy's punch, and then you can either like hit a button to grab them and then just like smash their face a bunch of times, which is really satisfying. It has the really good Indiana Jones thwack noises for the punches. It just feels, the combat feels really, really good. It feels honestly like a little better than I thought it was going to. Then it has like, when you do any kind of platforming with your whip, like throwing it up and climbing up the whip or swinging with the whip, it goes to third person to kind of make that platforming a little easier. And you do unlock abilities. You will find books in the levels that you then read and kind of spend ability points on to get extra abilities. Like one of the earliest ones you get is if you run out of hit points and get knocked down in a fight, your hat comes flying off, and then you can go pick up the hat and put it back on, and it gives you, your hit points back, and you get back in the fight, which is, very, very Indiana Jones. And then speaking of very Indiana Jones, the temples that you kind of stumble upon and do puzzles are fun. You have, like the kind of, it's a dark temple dungeon thing, and you have your torch kind of, like illuminating these dark spaces. That part is fun. There's, obviously the like, oh, Indiana Jones is afraid of snakes and scorpions, and you have to, deal with that stuff. And then it has like, a lot of the kind of obvious Indiana Jones trappings of the movies, like pressure plates on floors and, redirecting light for puzzles and stuff. It's like stuff that you haven't not seen in video games before, but it does have a charm doing it as Indiana Jones. And I just think it's very neat. And also the areas that you go in, like the first kind of big area you go to is the Vatican. And there's a lot more to do than I was thinking. It's kind of like a big open area with like side quests and stuff that you can go and tackle. And the navigation. The navigation is great because you pull up a map by hitting select, and Indiana Jones physically holds up a map with his hands, and you see like an arrow indicating where you are, and then like waypoints on the map indicating where the objective is. And it's kind of like the way he holds it up is that you can still kind of peer over the map with the top half of the screen. So you can just kind of like run around with this map in your hand. And it looks very natural. That kind of like Dead Space like thing where the HUD is on a physical object in the game. So it feels less, obviously video gamey. Just a really great, cool presentation with that stuff. So yeah, I have finished the Vatican, and now I want to say maybe about halfway through the second section, which is Giza. I'm going around some pyramids and stuff. So I'm really enjoying it. I wish that because I started playing like in December, and I've been playing it like in spits and burts here. I really wished I had more time to like sit down and spend some real quality time with it. I got to spend some decent time with it yesterday, and I'm hoping that with the long weekend we're about to have, that I will get even more time to spend with it. But that's kind of like the big, like, substantial like AAA game that I've been spending my time with, really enjoying it. And the kind of big chunky game that I've been dedicating some time to, especially on the Steam Deck, just like playing an hour or two before going to bed, that I've really been enjoying is I like to, at any given point, whatever I'm playing video game wise, I like to have some sort of JRPG on my plate as just kind of like a crunchy, grindy thing that I can do at any given point. And that game for me right now is kind of an older-ish game. It came out like 2018, I want to say, but it's Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Donna, which when I had my Steam Deck at a friend group get together recently, and I was playing this game, and I had a friend look over my shoulder and be like, "Oh, what are you playing?" And I said, "Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Donna." And they said, "That's too much." Just like in reference to the title, which, I can't deny. But Ys 8, if you don't know the Ys series of games, it is a series developed by Falcom, a JRPG developing developer of Japanese RPGs. They also do the Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky series. But Ys is a game that dates back to the PC Engine, I believe. And it is a like action RPG. The early games had what they called bump combat, where you just like, you have your, main character of every game in the series, Adol Christian, who you would just kind of like run your character into enemies, and you would kind of exchange damage, kind of like a Zelda without the attack button, if that makes sense. And then later games in the series, I've actually the other game in the series I've played was the one that came to the PSP, which was Ys the Oath of Felghana, which I think was the 5th game in the franchise, which had a more kind of traditional, like isometric combat, but you had an attack button and you could jump and dodge roll. And that's really kind of where the like heavy action component of the series came into play. Like that, I think Oath of Felghana really kind of like defined the series in a way. And then this game, Ys 8, which I've seen on like ranking of the series lists, that this is one of the best ones in the franchise, and I just really wanted to kind of get back to this franchise. Lacrimosa of Donna, which is it's a third person perspective, but also you have kind of a party of characters that you can cycle through in real time. Like you can be attacking with your main character Adol, and then like just hit the square button and switch real quick to like your character Laxia, who is more of you kind of have a rock paper scissors kind of damage like typing with your characters. Like Adol has has slashing damage. Laxia, who has like a rapier, does piercing damage, which does more damage to flying enemies. And then your kind of heavy character who has like this big axe, his name is Sahad, and he does more damage to armored enemies like crabs and snails and stuff like that. And it's really like fun, interesting combat. You get special abilities that you can fire off with like your charged magic meter or whatever. You have like big flashy ultra moves that you can do and stuff. But it like when it gets down to it, it is just like running through these areas, going through dungeons, clearing out areas of monsters, and then going and fighting a big boss or many bosses depending on where you are in the map. But it is in previous Ys games, like in Oath of Felghana, it was just kind of like pretty straightforward, like a little bit of a branching path, but mostly just like going one direction kind of exploration. But with Lacrimosa of Donna, Ys 8, it is like kind of way more open. You have like a big open map because so with the Ys series, what the kind of trope of the series is that Adol always starts the game off on a boat, and then the boat crashes, the boat sinks, and Adol ends up somewhere new and random. He's an adventurer. He likes to, explore new places. But whenever his ship crashes, he always ends up getting amnesia, which thankfully doesn't happen in this game. They weren't that tropey with this game, but he does start the game off on a boat and the boat crashes, and this time, like usually you would end up in like, oh, I'm in this new kingdom that I don't recognize, and I'm meeting this whole new cast of characters. But in this game, you have like your like main kind of tag along in most of these games, Dogi, who's like your kind of big muscle bound friend. But there was like a whole group of characters that were on the boat with you, and you all get stranded on an island that's kind of like a Bermuda Triangle kind of island where people go missing and are never seen again because there's a big sea monster kind of guarding the island that doesn't let anyone escape. But the fun part about this game is that you get stranded on the island, and then you, like, with all the characters, you are kind of building up this town, and you're going out and finding, people that were on the ship and rescuing them and bringing them back to the village. And they will, like, a lot of them will provide new services to your hub village, whether it be like, oh, you saved the blacksmith so you can upgrade your weapons now, or you saved like the tailor so you can make accessories now. And just like all sorts of various stuff like that. And you'll like meet like characters that will sometimes replace other characters. Some characters might die, and you have to deal with the repercussions of that. Just really neat, like in almost Persona style, honestly, kind of like talking to all the characters, getting to know them. You can buy gifts for the characters to increase their virtue and give you stat bonuses and stuff. Just a really neat, like not the most substantial JRPG, but I am also liking the story. It kind of has a dual protagonist, kind of like switching of perspectives as you're playing as Adol, but then you're also playing as the character Donna, who is this like tree maiden character from the past that you like Adol is having dreams of. and like her actions in the past are affecting the present, and it's really neat. Very anime, obviously JRPG, but having a really great time with it. I think it's about, it clocks in how long to beat has it clocked at about an hour and a half, or not hour and a half. Has it clocked in at about like 35 hours, and I'm about 25 hours, I want to say. So I'm about like 3/4 of the way through, I think. At least, like, you know, judging by the chapter number that I'm on and how many chapters that I know are in the game. I'm starting to get towards the end of it, but really a really great, like, you know, chill out in bed with the Switch, with the Steam Deck before bed game. And then finally, speaking of games to just kind of chill out to, I also picked up in early access on Steam TCG Card Shop Simulator, which the Fatal 4 crew knows, especially the Didn't Get All of It podcast crew. Is the TCG Card Shop Simulator is a game that I've been playing while waiting for people to show up for the record. Just kind of like sharing my screen in the stream setup that we do, and just having people watch me like manage my card shop as we're getting ready to like record an episode of the podcast. But it's, you know, it's like the mini, I feel like this is a genre that's kind of popped up on Steam recently, the kind of like retail management sim game, what with your like supermarket simulator and gas station simulator games that have kind of, you know, like seen some success on Steam. And now we have TCG Card Shop Simulator, where you run your own card shop. You can, you know, buy like booster packs and card boxes and sleeves and all, like, you know, card binders and various stuff to sell in your shop, and have people come through, and you can set up tables for people to play the games at the game. The fictional game in TCG Card Shop Simulator is a game called Tetramon, which is kind of an obvious like Pokemon ripoff thing. But like the art is like convincing enough. It's not like so Pokemon that it's like, oh, this is the, like, but it, you know, it is close enough to get the vibe of it. And the cards are also like pretty detailed. They have like stats and effects written down on it. So there are rules for this game that you know, don't have access to playing the game yourself in, but I have heard that they are supposed to make the game playable at some point, either whether that being like a separate game or like having it be within the game itself. And you do get to collect cards. You get to like rip open the packs yourself and like leaf through all the cards that you get, and you like put them in your big collection. You can even set up display cases to show off your collection that customers in the store can't buy, which I haven't really been doing that as much. I've pretty much just been treating everything as, you know, product for the store. Cause, you know, like some of the cards can, you know, be in the like multiple of thousands of dollars that you can sell to people. But it's a fun little like time waster, you know. It's something that like I can just really get lost with, just like doing something with my hands while listening to a podcast or getting ready to record a podcast. And having been a former employee at a comic book store where I would sell, you know, trading card games and trading card game accessories, there is like a weird amount of nostalgia that I get from it, because I'm, you know, like when you check people out, they hand you cash and then you give them back change, and you have to like actually count out the change and hand it back to them. And I pretty quickly fell back into the like retail math of giving back change, which is like weirdly nostalgic and comforting in a way. So yeah, but I've been like a weirdly good time with that game. I think I've actually put in like almost like 30 hours into that game. And we'll probably be playing more as I'm expanding my shop and putting more stuff in there. But that's all the games I've been playing. Why don't we take one more break, and when we come back, I will have a third segment for you. And we're back, folks, and that's right, it is time for the third segment of the show. It's time for the Strafe Shuffle. And please forgive me as I am realizing through the process of recording this episode that my voice is getting worse and worse. I have been having horrible allergies and respiratory issues for like the past month. So it turns out solo podcasting is hard on the voice when you're just talking, when you're just yapping for over an hour. But I thought that I would do a little bit of news cleanup here in this third segment. Specifically, I wanted to talk about, I never got a chance to talk about the VGAs, the Video Game Award announcements that were made. And there's a decent amount of stuff from that show that I am excited for. And it's, a ton of stuff that, has not gotten firm release dates in some cases. So it's definitely stuff that we will be seeing much later and that I want to talk about. So obviously, like, one of the biggest things coming out of the VGAs was Naughty Dog's new game, Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet, which looks very, very cool. Kind of a Cowboy Bebop aesthetic thing going on here. Female protagonist with a really cool sword that kind of has a waveform, like laser thing going on. It looks really neat. Like music might play a big role in this game. Kind of a more like heavy melee combat thing going on than Naughty Dog usually has, I guess, since Crash Bandicoot in a weird way. But it's super neat seeing Naughty Dog finally do a new IP. Because it feels like they've kind of been in The Last of Us minds for the past decade, honestly. But really, really and obviously like some of that has to do with, like all The Last of Us that they've been making, but also kind of being tied up in that Last of Us multiplayer live service game that they were working on that never fully got off the ground and got canceled. So, but apparently they've been working on this game for like the past 4 years. So we might see this game sooner than later, perhaps. If that's true, they've been working on it for that long. So we'll see on, Intergalactic, Heretic Prophet. Cool name, by the way. Looking very cool. And then the game that I'm honestly probably the most excited for coming out of this thing is the game that is now codenamed now, I believe, called Project Robot, which is the new game from Team Ico and my beloved game director Fumito Ueda, who has made previous games, obviously like Ico and Shadow of the Colossus and Trico, not Trico, the Last Guardian featuring Trico, the big bird dog. But this game, it's interesting because it obviously has the kind of Ico Fumito Ueda flair. Like it shares a similar aesthetic, it seems like, with things like Ico and Shadow of the Colossus and The Last Guardian, and might even take place in the same world as those games. But it's sci-fi this time. Kind of like a big robot that seems like the player character is jumping onto, and then like its head comes off and flies away. But weirdly enough, it has spoken dialogue that is in English for the first time in this series of games. It's very mysterious, and just that I love the vibe that those games have, and it looks like they're bringing it to this game. I'm very, very excited for Project Robot. Whenever it comes out, Team Ico tends to cook pretty long on their games, but I'm willing to wait for however long it takes for this game to come out, and I will be very excited to play it when it does. Then we got a decent amount of games coming out of this from Capcom. Capcom's just been on fire lately. And we got one of the big reveals of the show is that we are getting a sequel to Okami. which I have never played Okami, but like when this was announced, I ended up getting the Okami HD version on Steam for sale. I'm kind of planning on going through like a bit of a Capcom binge pretty soon. There's a decent amount of stuff from their catalog that I have not ever played, but I know are like very popular. So I definitely want to play the original Okami so I can be ready for the sequel. And then they also announced a new Onimusha game, Onimusha Way of the Sword, that I believe is dated for like 2026. They just had like a little cinematic trailer, no big details or anything besides, hey, it's a new Onimusha. Which also I have not played the original Onimusha either, which I think that might be one of the next games I'm going to play, because MinMax, like one of my favorite video game YouTube channels and podcasts, MinMax, they are doing what they call the deepest dive that they do, which is kind of like a video game book club. And the next one of those they're doing is going to be for the original Onimusha Warlords. So I want to play that, follow along with them, and then kind of get introduced to Onimusha and maybe have like a better time getting into this sequel, Way of the Sword. And then they also there was an announcement for a game called Thick as Thieves, which appears to be a competitive multiplayer immersive sim where you are like a bunch of like fantasy thieves, and there's some sort of MacGuffin in the center of the level that you all have to race toward and steal and extract from the level, and you can like mess with each other, kind of like tip each other off to enemies. It looks very neat. It looks like something that I'm really hoping I can get a group of friends together to try that out. They're very obsessed with Helldivers right now, which I can't blame them, but hopefully I can tear them away from that long enough to check out this Thick of Thieves, which I don't know when this is coming out, but definitely keep my eye on it when it does. Then we have the game Rematch, which is from the Sifu developers, and it's a soccer game, but kind of a different take on a soccer game, because usually I think when you think of a soccer game, you think of something like FIFA or like Evo, like Winning 11, stuff like that, with the kind of more top down, switching control from character to character, kind of commanding your team from a bird's eye view kind of perspective. But this is kind of like more from behind the back control over the action. Weirdly enough, like even like with the technology in the game, it kind of has like like cyber shields around the field. Kind of like weirdly makes you think of, oh, it's like Rocket League but with people. And you think about it for another second, you go, wait, that's just soccer. That's just soccer. But weirdly, like enough, like that's kind of the best way to describe what it looks like, the way it plays. But yeah, this looks neat. It's got a cool look too. I'm really excited for this one, Rematch. Then there was also, I just want to get this out of the way. There was that weird game Catly that was announced that just seemed like AI sludge or something. I don't know how that trailer got into the showcase. Money, I guess. But I think the developers were revealed to have been like part of like a bunch of crypto stuff in the past. And if you look up the page on Steam, it's just like a bunch of nonsense. It just seems like stuff that was typed into ChatGPT and vomited back out. Like it's really weird. So yeah, I just wanted to point out how weird that was. And then I'm very excited for, it was a game that was announced during the kind of pre-show to the Game Awards. We're getting a new Ninja Gaiden game, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. But instead of like the modern Ninja Gaiden games, this is kind of a throwback to classic NES style Ninja Gaiden, a like pixel 2D side-scrolling. And it looks like the character model is based off of like classic Ryu instead of modern day Ryu. And could maybe be a bit of like a Metroidvania type situation, perhaps. Looks very flashy, very cool, very excited for that. And then this is a big one. From the Like a Dragon devs are kind of on fire lately because they have all the stuff that they're doing with Like a Dragon. They also have a new game that was announced here as well called Project Century. That looks like a different era Japan, may or may not be connected to the Like a Dragon universe, kind of in a way that that Judgment was kind of part of that world, but not like directly interacting with it in the same way. I could see this game kind of being like that, Project Century, that is. But then they also announced that Virtua Fighter is back. They're making a new Virtua Fighter game developed by the Like a Dragon devs, which is like weird, but so neat. I'm just glad that Virtua Fighter is seeing the light of day once again, and that they're having a developer like the Like a Dragon team take a chance on it. Like, that's so cool. So very neat stuff coming out of the VGAs. Very much looking forward to most of and all all the stuff that I said talking about that. But yeah. And overall, like, the VGAs was a pretty good show. I mean, like, the awards or whatever. I mean, Astrobot deserved to win for sure. It was either that or Balatro in my book. But yeah, there's lots to look forward to, folks. Lots of stuff to look forward to this year, in the coming years. Lots of good. I feel like it's going to be a good year for gaming, because like last year was pretty good too. But I feel like a lot of stuff got delayed and is now like got pushed to this year. So I feel like there's going to be a lot of big heavy hitters coming down the pipe. So watch out, folks. Video games are back. But that'll do it for this episode, folks. Hopefully I can get back to a more normal schedule. We'll see. Still kind of figuring out the new schedule with the full-time job. But I will try my best to get some talking video games out to you folks, because I like doing this show. I love talking about video games into a microphone. I want to keep providing that for y'all. But thank you for listening to another episode of Squared Circle Strafe. Leave us a nice review on Apple Podcasts if you like the show. You can follow me on Blue Sky at Oozing Neon. If you want to catch more of me talking about some real nerdy stuff, you can follow the Didn't Get All of It podcast to hear me and the rest of the Fatal 4 hosts talk about the latest and greatest in professional wrestling. You can also sign up for our Patreon to get exclusive access to our Discord, as well as bonus content and the satisfaction of supporting independent podcasting media. Head to patreon.com/Fatal4Pod. That's Fatal, F-O-U-R Pod. Thank you again for listening, and as always, enjoy your gaming.
You've been listening to a Fatal 4 podcast. Subscribe today wherever you get your podcasts and visit fatal4pod.com for more episodes, merchandise, and info on the Patreon.